The FBI Files, Part 2. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Good evening, Wolverines. Welcome back to the channel. My name is John Crump, and I'm an investigative journalist. One of the places I investigate a lot is the FBI. In fact, I launched a series of YouTube videos and articles over on MLN.com looking into some documents that we got through a Freedom of Information Act request. So, last week we talked about racially motivated violent extremists or ethnically motivated violent extremists and their ties to foreign terrorist organizations, especially Islamic foreign terrorist organizations. This week, we're going to look more into the documents. We're going to cover a little bit more about these racially motivated violent extremists and also look at who else the FBI considers to be domestic terrorists. And a lot of those people might surprise you. But before we get into today's story, remember this is John Crump News, where we discuss 2A and other issues almost every day. If you could do me a big favor, like, comment, and subscribe, it helps boost the signal. And with that, we are going to go ahead and jump into the story. This document starts out by saying that hate is not a crime and the FBI cannot crack down on First Amendment things, such as freedom of speech, because remember, freedom of speech is to protect unpopular speech, not popular speech. But then they go and talk about how they're going to monitor a bunch of different groups. The first thing they talk about is racially motivated violent extremists. And just like last week, to be a racially motivated violent extremist, apparently you have to be white. There's no other races mentioned. It's only white people, which is kind of ridiculous because other races can be racist too. The FBI claims that these groups are targeting minority ethnic, religious, and racial groups. Basically, they want a white ethno-state, so they want everyone else out. It's kind of ridiculous, but I guess some people do believe that. The FBI states that these people are responsible for the most lethal attacks, which I'm not sure about because 9/11, there's like 3,000 people that died there. And the FBI themselves list every attack between 2015 and 2019, and it amounted to 21 attacks with less than 100 deaths. So pretty sure that what happened on 9/11 and other terrorist attacks since then actually outweighs what these yokels are doing. The FBI also states that in the past, these racially motivated violent extremists worked under a national organization, such as the Ku Klux Klan or whatnot, but now they're acting in independent cells or lone wolf attacks. The FBI is really, really worried about the lone wolf attacks. And if you look at the attacks that have happened, there usually are lone wolf attackers. So I got to give them that. An interesting thing, though, is the FBI says that these extremists like targeting soft targets, such as churches and other places where there are no firearms, which is something that we have been saying for a while now, and it looks like the FBI actually does agree with us on that. Gunfree Zones does nothing but provide a soft target for maniacs out there. The Bureau believes that there's a lot of people being radicalized online by reading manifestos such as The Great Replacement and Siege. There's a bunch of other manifestos that people are reading and they list them in the documents. So you can go ahead and check that out. They also state that people are going to websites such as Fascist Forge and other websites ran by anti-minority groups and getting radicalized that way. One of the groups that they are most worried about is a group out of California called the Rise Against Movement, also known as RAM. RAM was formed in California by a bunch of skinheads, and they are definitely Nazis. They have multiple pages on those guys in this FOIA dump. So if you want to see that, let me know. That's not really, because it's not really that interesting. It just talks about the group's history and their symbols and stuff like that. Also, they state that these racially motivated violent extremists are networking with groups from Europe especially from Ukraine, such as the Azov movement, which I find kind of interesting for some reason. Not really sure why, but hey. Okay, guys, so that's not the only domestic terrorist that they are worried about. They are also worried about agaves, which are anti-government, anti-authority groups. These are your Oath Keepers, your Three Percenters, and such groups like that. The FBI states it can only investigate these groups if there's potential for a federal violation, violence, and politically motivated ideas. And that's the only way that they can investigate these groups for terrorism. But then they talk about how they monitor a bunch of different groups for being domestic terrorists, even though it doesn't really check any of those boxes. But hey, the FBI is going to do what the FBI is going to do, right? The FBI also lists environmental extremist, animal extremist, anti-abortion extremist, sovereign citizens, and anti-fascist extremist as also potential domestic terrorists. Out of all those groups, who do you think that the FBI is most worried about? They state that the pro-life movement has the potential for causing the greatest harm in the country. That's where the biggest threat lies, is in the pro-life movement, which I think is kind of ridiculous because it's not that violent. Most people in the pro-life movement are not violent at all, actually. But the FBI states that there is a huge threat to abortion providers and property. One of the things I find hilarious is when it's talking about sovereign citizens, their thing that they are most worried about is frivolous lawsuits, which may be legal terrorism, but I don't think it is like violent terrorism or any reason why you should consider sovereign citizens domestic terrorists. But apparently the FBI does do that. And the FBI is stating that programs such as Signal and other encrypted messaging software is their biggest hurdle. I guess because people don't want to be watched by the watchers, they see that as a bad thing and think that is hindering their ability to investigate. Now, a lot of people think Telegram is secure, but by default, it is not encrypted. So you need to use something like Signal or some other type of encrypted app. Telegram is not exactly the securest application out there. WhatsApp is actually better than Telegram. But hey, what do I know? Okay, guys, so that is it for this part of the story. The next thing we're going to be getting into is the Antifa and anti-racist people. And then after that, we're going to get into right-wing versus left-wing violence, which should be a lot of fun. And you should stay tuned for that. And we're going to finish off the series by talking about weird things like Puerto Rican groups and stuff like that, which will be definitely interesting and definitely eye-opening. All right, guys. So that's it. Stay ever vigilant, stay ever free. Keeping the fight. I am out of here. See you later. Bye.